Hiya, hello, welcome to the show again. Welcome to my kitchen again. So I wanted to do a really lovely kind of summery recipe with you guys, and it looks like winter outside. Like it's really rainy and not very pleasant at all. But although there is no sunshine outside, we will have sunshine in our food today. Definitely. So thank you everybody for joining me. Do let me know if you are cooking along. Hopefully we won't have any gremlins or technical issues, which we've had for the last few weeks. So, and just a word as well, like if we ever do get technical issues and all of a sudden have to like stop doing the show, I will start it again. Particularly for those people who are actually cooking along, because it's disastrous if like we get like halfway through and then it's like I just freeze and there's nothing. I will definitely come back, so don't worry about that. So we've got Colleen, who is always quick off the bat. I don't know how she does it. Like it is like super early there, right? She's probably a morning person like me. Anna, hello. Khan, glad to see you here. Jeff is here. He's actually next door, still recuperating from his broken ribs. Basically, I'm medicating him with cake and cookies. So he's pretty happy with that. We've got Jules. Jules is here. Welcome. And Tanya, Denise, Christine. Christine says, I'm busy with party food for my daughter's birthday, so here's hoping that I don't get mixed up. What is good party food? It's definitely very good party food. Khan says, Chef Day bringing vegan cooking to Hogwarts. Am I? Okay. Annie's here. Lovely to have you all here. If you aren't cooking along, then just put your feet up, relax, have a cup of tea, gin and tonic, whatever it is, whatever your tipple is. Justine is here, and Karen as well. So hello. We've got lots of lovely people here today. Thank you for joining me. This is a really easy recipe, and one that you guys can you can just use it as like a blueprint, basically. And so you can use whatever fruit you have to hand. Really, I can't think of many fruits that you couldn't use really with this. Justine says, was nice talking to you in the week. It was lovely talking to you too. Jeff said the best known cure in the world for anything is cake. Definitely. Lara's here. Lara, welcome. So some of you guys might remember that Lara very generously did a show for us, I think last year at some point. Paul is here, our official show counter, and he says it's the 172nd Facebook Live. Wow, we're really racking them up, aren't we? And he says, greetings from Galway City on the west coast of Ireland. I would really love to visit that area because I hear that Ireland is absolutely beautiful. And I feel very ashamed that I've been all around the world, to New Zealand and Malaysia and places like that, but I haven't been to Ireland. So it's definitely on the list when we get back to doing those types of things. Okay, so as I was saying, really simple recipe today. We are using agar. So this is the agar that I'm using. I used to use agar flakes, but then I switched over to using agar powder. And there is a difference in how we work with the flakes and how we work with the powder. And there's also a difference in the amount of time that we need to cook it. So agar is basically a vegan substitute for gelatin. So it has exactly the same properties. And what will happen is the agar will melt, and it has to be put in cool or room temperature liquid, and then it needs to be heated up. If agar is put into warm liquid and then you try to continue heating the liquid, it won't dissolve. So agar always has to go into either cool, cold, or at a push, room temperature liquid. Okay, never hot. And so it will dissolve, and then once it starts to cool down, it will set. Basically, it will set the liquid that it's in. As long as you've cooked it out for long enough, it will do that. And it sets at room temperature. So when you're making any kind of agar jelly or agar mousse like we are today, you don't need to put it into the fridge. Quite often when I'm teaching my students how to make, we do like a panna cotta in the chef course, they often say to me, oh, well, you know, it hasn't set at room temperature, so if I put it in the fridge, will it then set? No, 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 it won't. It won't at all. It should set at room temperature. And here's one I made earlier of the mousse today. I actually set them at room temperature just to prove to you guys that you don't actually need to put them in the fridge, and it won't help. So if you haven't had it set in that first instance at room temperature, then going into the fridge ain't gonna help it, unfortunately. So, as I said, I'm using agar powder today. Agar powder is, of course, much finer than agar flakes. And so what that means is that in this recipe, I say with the agar flakes, it's 1.5 teaspoons of agar flakes or half a teaspoon of agar powder. So it's that ratio. So it's 3 to 1, basically. So if you guys come across a recipe that has either agar flakes or agar powder, but you've got the other one, then you can do the maths and you can work it out. Okay, let me just see if we've had any more comments whilst I've been gabbing about agar. And Annie says, wow, that's a lot of food. Yeah. And Paul says, I'll be kicking along later. I have plenty of strawberries and ingredients to make a quadruple amount. Good, good, good. And thank you, Paul, for telling everybody how to share the Facebook Live. So if you guys have a moment now, then please do share it. You can share it into groups as well, which is always a nice thing to do. Just see if we can get a few more people along to the show and share our recipes even more. And Paul says, from the internet, a mousse foam is a soft prepared food that incorporates air bubbles to give it a light and airy texture. It can range from light and fluffy to creamy and thick. Yes, absolutely. And they're delightful things, really delightful things, and so easy to make vegan. Okay, so one other thing to say about either using agar powder or agar flakes is there is a slight difference in the way that we cook them out. So, and it makes sense when you think of, you know, the fact that flakes are bigger parts and powder is very, very fine. So with the powder, and this is what I'll be using today, you just need to boil it in liquid, whatever liquid it is that you're choosing to use, for 2 minutes. So you let it bubble. And just a word of warning, you know, if you think that the water that you have, the liquid that you're using is going to evaporate in that time, then you have to increase the liquid amount, because you just want it to be bubbling for a couple of minutes to let all of the agar fully dissolve. And it is a fine powder, so, you know, it really doesn't take very long at all. That bit of the show is going to go really, really super quick. So if you are cooking along, then it's probably best just to watch me do that and then you do it, okay? Because it is going to go really, really fast. So with the agar powder, it is literally just bubbling for 2 minutes. Now, when it comes to the agar flakes, they can take 10 to 15 minutes. So you will need a metal spoon, because you need to be able to see if those agar flakes have actually dissolved. And if you dip a metal spoon into the liquid and you bring it back out again, you'll be able to see if those flakes have gone or if they haven't. Now, you don't have to have dissolved 100% of the flakes, but around like 90% is good. And that will give you enough of kind of like a gelling agent, a setting agent for your mousse to set. So you can use either one, and there's no one, neither of them are, I would say, better to use, because with the powder, what I found is that some people can think that it's all dissolved and that it's all been kind of activated, because it kind of like brings you into like a false like sense of security with it, because it's just a powder, right? So with the flakes, you can actually see whether it's fully dissolved or not. You've got that kind of like visual cue. But with the agar powder, you know, totally, you know, fine to use that. You just need to make sure that we bubble it for between 1 minute to 2 minutes. Right, okay, so one other thing about this actual brand, it lies. It actually lies. So on the back of the packet, it says 1 sachet is 1 teaspoon. It is not. 1 sachet is 2 teaspoons. So just bear that in mind and just measure it out with your own actual teaspoon, please, rather than believing what the packet says. Okay, right, let's crack on with the recipe. Of course, I have a rainbow somewhere in my kitchen today, and you guys have to guess what is underneath the rainbow. And everybody, please be quick on the draw with this. And let's see if anyone can actually beat Colleen. Jeff is not allowed to take part because he already knows what it is. Okay, so let's go to the overhead camera. There we go. And I'm going to start by hulling our strawberries. So what we want to do with our strawberries is, of course, we want to take these leaves off. But we also... Oh, Colin said she's sleeping. Okay, well, she's giving you guys a chance then. And then you just take this top bit out as well. Okay? So I take the leaves off. Jules! Jules got it! She says it's tofu. Yeah, it is tofu. And see, in my like super realistic picture, we've even got like a few hairs on the big toe there. Because, you know, we all get them. Let's be honest about it. Okay, so with my strawberries, I'm just going to take the leaves and the stalk off, and then put my knife in and just get that top bit out, because that top bit can still be a bit tough, and we don't want that. Justine said that she got it first. See, the thing is that I always see these comments in a slightly different order to you guys. So, okay, well, what I will say is that Jules and Justine were joint first. There you go. How about that? So, again, just kind of grabbing that as best as I can. They can be a bit tough. And then making just the tip of my knife go around the top of that stem, and we'll take that bit out. So of course I've washed my strawberries really, really well first. There we go. We'll just take them out. And just to say, guys, as well, I'm doing a half recipe today because I've got here's one I made earlier. Tanya says I thought it said poo. I need new glasses. Okay. There we go. So, guys, as I was saying at the top of the show, you can use other fruit for this. I think mango would be absolutely lovely in this recipe. Lots of like natural sweetness with something like that. Okay, so with our berries, Colleen says I actually got it first. I was just too tired to type. Oh, a likely story. A likely story. So we just pop all of our berries into here. And we'll move this to one side. There we go. And then we've got our silken tofu. And you can get silken tofu either, it can be firm or it can be soft. But with this recipe, you can use either one. Doesn't matter. We'll just pop that into our... I mean, I'm using this as like a kind of like Tupperware-y thing, but you can use a jug, whichever you fancy. You just want to make sure that you've got enough space for all of the ingredients, obviously, and for your stick blender to go in there. Okay, and we'll just add some either sugar or syrup. And, you know, you just need to add as much as you want to add, really. So I'm just going to add a little squidge of it. That's obviously a technical term there. And then I'm going to mix it, and then I'm going to taste it. And the reason why, you know, we've got a kind of like rough amount of sugar or syrup that we use for a recipe like this is because we just don't know how sweet it's going to turn out, because, you know, strawberries, sometimes they can be really sweet and sometimes not so sweet. So do taste it. So I'll just blend this. Okay, I was just really making sure that it was completely blended, because we don't want any bits in our mousse. We want our mousse to be, you know, smooth. That's the thing, like with mousse, you want it to be a really lovely texture. Okay, so now I can just taste it and see if it needs any more sweetness. Maybe a bit more. So as you can see, I'm using agave nectar here. I do also quite often use date syrup, but date syrup will affect the colour, because the date syrup that we have at the moment is quite a dark colour. It's really, really tasty. Really, really tasty. And we had it on porridge the other day, apple porridge, which is absolutely divine. But I want to keep the nice like pink colour with our strawberry mousse. If you guys want to make the pink colour even more vibrant, then you could use something like beetroot powder. Even just like a tiny bit in here would really make the colour pop quite a lot. Or raspberry powder. Raspberry powder is another good kind of like natural option rather than using food colouring. Annie says, I love strawberry mousse. I'm going to make this later. Ah, good, good, good. Well, maybe Bradley might like it as well. Okay, so now I have a good amount of sweetness in this. I'm happy with it. So just one word of warning, guys. It's better to, well, actually, you have to adjust the sugar at this point, the level of sweetness at this point. Okay, we don't want to do that once the agar is in there, because the agar will start setting really, really quickly. So make your decision about the level of sweetness now. Okay. Right, so now let's get on to making our agar mixture. So I've got my water in here. There we go. So I just pop it into there. And then I'll pop the agar powder in as well. As I said, this is a half recipe. So the thing is, like with agar, is that you don't want to add too much or too little. If you add too much, then what will happen is the texture will be too tough and it will be like eating rubber, which, you know, of course is very unpleasant. So I'm just going to give this a little shake just to make sure that there isn't like a clump of powder in there. And then before I get going, because as I said, this is going to happen all like quite quickly, I'm going to make sure that we've got our glasses here. So this is what I'm going to use, very, very pretty, for our mousses. They can go into there. So just make sure that you've got them out of the cupboard and they are ready. Okay, so let's pop our hob on. There we go. I'm just going to turn it down to 2 because this pan has really, really, really high conductivity. So this is probably going to go quite quickly, this process. There we go. Annie says, yeah, she's hoping that Bradley will like it. I'll get him to help making it, as I think kids enjoy eating what they make. Absolutely, absolutely. You're really, really right with that. I've heard from people who teach children cooking how they can get kids to eat things that they normally just wouldn't touch at home. So it's absolutely amazing, like the difference it can make. Okay, so I've got my hand blender here ready to go, and once this has been bubbling and I can see that it's thickening, we've got the agar is activated, I'm going to pour it in to here and blend it really, really quickly, and then quick as you like, pour it into the glasses. Okay, so as I said, this is going to happen all like pretty quickly. Let me draw these to the side. There we go. Give ourselves a bit more space here. There we go. So it's starting to have like some very, 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 very tiny bubbles at the moment. And Jules says this is going to be like the world's healthiest version of Angel Delight. Yeah. Childhood super unhealthy stuff out of a packet, which my mum always tried to say no to. Yes, absolutely. So I remember that from my childhood too. Okay, guys, so sorry, I'm just having a problem with one of my cameras, so we'll just wait for this to bubble away whilst I try to fix my camera. Hey, there we go. What would be one of our shows without some gremlins appearing at some point? Okay, so this is starting to bubble away. I am doing it quite slowly, quite gently, because the last thing that you want is it speeding along and getting really thick. You know, the water's starting to evaporate too quickly, and before you know it, you've got this like gel, and you haven't been quick off the mark to actually like get it into the mixture. So I'm going to bring you guys quickly back to the overhead camera, and I'll hold it up so that you can see a bit more what's happening. See, it's already been reducing. You can see some of those bubbles there as well. I can see that it's thickening. There we go, and I think it's about done. So now I'm going to, as quick as you like, pop it into okay, and then speedily again pop it into our, any container will do. You know, it is nice if you're using a glass, so you can see the pudding, but any type of kind of like cup or bowl will do. Right. There we go, guys. That is pretty much it. Like, how easy is that? Very, very easy. Okay, so as I said, you just need to let these mousses sit at room temperature, and they will get firmer, just a little bit firmer, so it's more like a mousse texture rather than like a smoothie bowl. We don't want it to be like a smoothie bowl, which is what it's like without the agar in. We want it to be, you know, have the consistency of a mousse. And so it will only take, I think it took maybe about like half an hour or something like that to set room temperature, but just to be on the safe side, I'd say, you know, give it an hour. But you can pop it into the fridge if you want to. That's absolutely fine. It won't like affect the setting process or anything like that. And you may want it to be chilled anyway, you know, because maybe it's like it's a hot day, or, you know, one of the things that I always find with sweet things is that if they're cold, it actually tastes a bit nicer. It does actually taste a bit nicer. Okay, so let me just see if we've got any more questions before we get on to the next part. Paul says, I remember angels are like, yes, I do as well. And Cara says, I'm trying to get my non-vegan friend into tofu, so this will be a perfect one for her. Actually, that's a really, really good point. So, obviously, you know, the tofu in this recipe, it does have a flavour. It does have a flavour, and some people can be better at detecting the tofu flavour than others. So some people, like, you know, just doesn't, they can't detect the tofu or the soybean flavour, but some people can. So we can counteract that by adding more flavours. So, you know, adding things like, you know, the sweet spices, things like, you know, cinnamon, or, you know, adding like vanilla would be lovely. Go really, really well with the strawberry in this recipe. So you can just kind of like introduce like these stronger flavours if you're somebody who really does detect that soybean flavour and you don't like it, basically. Okay, so as promised, here's one I made earlier, or here's two I made earlier actually, and so if you can see, there's a little bit of a wobble on them, so a little bit of a wobble is absolutely fine. If we didn't have that, then the texture would just be a bit too firm, and we don't want that. And as I said, these have just been out at room temperature, haven't put them in the fridge at all, so we've got a really nice wobble on them. I'm actually going to bring this up to the camera so that you can see a bit better. I don't know if you can see that wobble. There we go. Right. Now, you guys can decide to dress these however you want, or you can just leave them as they are. but I am going to add a few bits and pieces to mine, just to kind of like make it a bit fancier. So I've got a few ingredients that I picked out here before the show. Let me just get my board as well. And actually, I'm going to pick some basil that we've had growing on our windowsill, because well, for one, I absolutely love basil. Really, really just love the smell of it. Like, I wish I could just live in a field of basil. I'd be a very, very happy woman. And Paula actually is asking, is meese the plural of mousse? I know it's one of those words, isn't it? Okay, so I actually had a strawberry left over from the punnet that I was using. So I'm going to make use of that, because they generously gave me more than 250 grams, which is very, very nice. And let me just bring you guys to the overhead camera so that you can see how I'm going to slice this. Jules says this is the coolest recipe ever, can't wait to try it. Oh, I'm really glad that you like it. Okay, so I've got my half strawberry here, and I'm going to cut it, but I'm not going to cut it all the way to the top because I want to kind of fan it out. So I'm just starting a little bit below the top, and then we're just going to cut some really slim slices. There we go. Okay, so you can see those little knife lines, because then what we can do is we can just gently fan it out. Here we go. So we can put it onto here. There we go. With our basil leaf, and I'll do the same again. And again, just fanning it out. Doesn't need a bit of encouragement to do that, to be honest. There we go. Pop that on there. There we go, with our basil, and then I am going to add a bit of, this is a toasted hazelnut that I had crushed up in another recipe that I was making the other day. I made some very nice buckwheat pancakes with chocolate and hazelnut, which is very, very nice. And then the piece de resistance, this is some really, really, really lovely balsamic vinegar. So balsamic vinegar is actually my favourite ingredient. So at the start of my chef courses, I always get my students to bring in their favourite ingredient, and then they tell me why it's their favourite ingredient. So balsamic vinegar is always mine. The last holiday I went on was actually to Modena to see balsamic vinegar, like the how it's made and stuff like that. So yes, I'm very, very happy to get this. Very, very happy to get this. And I love using these unusual ingredients. You know, ingredients that actually I'm going to do it over here just in case it goes wrong. There we go. Ingredients that we usually think of as, savoury things, and putting them in sweet dishes. So basil is a great thing, and balsamic, really good balsamic vinegar on ice cream is so nice. I'm being so chefy. I don't care. I love food. Okay, right, there we go, guys. It's like going out to a restaurant, but we're at home, which is exactly what we all need at the moment. Exactly what we all need. And of course, you don't have to ask me twice. I am gonna dig into this. Of course. Oh, yes. Oh, that is good. Okay. Let me see if I can bring this over, because I really want to show you the texture of this, because when we make anything with agar, we can really stress and panic that it isn't going to set, it's always a bit of a worry every time you do it. So it's great to see that it has worked. There we go. Okay, so it's soft. It's soft, but it has set. That's what we're looking for with this. Okay. Sorry, I'm gonna have to have some more. Now, as I said, guys, you know, if you guys don't like strawberries, or you can't have strawberries, there's lots of other options. You know, I think pretty much any berries you could use for this. You could use a mixture of berries as well. You could use frozen berries, but I would say if you're using frozen berries, then just defrost them completely first, and then use them in the recipe. Anything like kind of like pineapple, mango, papaya. With papaya, because it's not so sweet, then you may want to add a bit more sweetness, whether that's sugar or syrup or whatever. You could also add something like lime zest to it. So when we're making a recipe like this, you know, you probably don't want to add like too much liquid. So, you know, adding like lots of lime juice, you don't have to do that to get the lime flavour in, because the actual zest contains so much flavour, absolutely so much flavour. And also what it means is that you can use the zest for a recipe like this, and then you can use the juice for something else, which is absolutely brilliant. It's a really, really good like food waste thing to do. Okay, guys. Oh, Colleen says it's a Happy Mother's Day tomorrow in the US. Okay. I'm really glad that you quantified that and you said that it's in the US, because I think I remember somebody saying that last year, and all of us in the UK kind of panicked, like, oh my God, I actually haven't sent anything to my mum. I'm going to get into so much trouble. So thank you for being specific on that, Colleen. Okay, so Denise says thank you for coming. Paul says ratings out of 10 for texture. Yes. Cara says totally making this later. Good. Guys, please do let me know how you get on. I always love to see pictures in the community hub, so please do share them. And of course, food selfie is always brilliant, because I get to see you guys, you know, and put a face to the name, which is fab. If you have any problems with agar, then do just let me know, because I think quite often it is one of those things that people can be a bit apprehensive about using, but once you start using it, it's such a game changer. It really is like such a great ingredient to use. So, you know, please do give it a go. Next week I'm going to be making a really, really lovely hearty salad. When I was a kid, I thought salads were, you know, iceberg lettuce, some pink tomatoes, and a bit of cucumber, and it turns out that that's not true. So I'm going to be sharing with you guys my superfood salad, which is really, really hearty. It has so many different ingredients in it. That basically you can get like pretty much all of the nutrition that you need in that one dish. So please do join me for that. And as always, have a lovely day.